Hello, everybody, and good morning. Welcome to End Times Talk. I have some stuff to show you this morning that I think you'll find relatively interesting here. I'm going to start here, make this a little bigger for you. America's second key oil route out of the Middle East could be blitzed in days if pack of terrorist rebels join Iran's fight, is what they're saying. And we know that the Strait of Hormuz is being shut down, but there's other issues that are arising here. It says America's second key oil route of out of the Middle East could be compromised in a matter of days if Iranian-backed terrorist rebels join the ongoing war. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy claims they have complete control of the Strait of Hormuz, and they do at this point. Um, a waterway between the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman, where roughly one-fifth of the world's oil supply passes through. Where roughly one-fifth of the world's oil supply passes through. But as tensions continue to grow between the U.S. and Israel and Iran, the Red Sea, another major oil transport could be targeted next if the Houthis get involved. And we've seen the Houthis get involved when it comes to the Red Sea before. The Yemeni militant group, which is armed and funded by Iran, has allegedly threatened they will step in, with Houthis leader Abdul Malak al Houthi stating earlier this month that our fingers are on the trigger, is his quote. The group hasn't entered the fight yet, but if they do, it will further impact the global economy. It could also see targets expand to Saudi Arabia and nearby U.S. assets, including a base in Djibouti. Djibouti. If the Houthis enter the conflict, it really raises the stakes. Adam Barron, a fellow at Think Tank New America, who specializes in Yemen and the Gulf, told the Wall Street Journal. It pulls the Suez Canal, and this is what we're talking about here, and the Egyptians in. It brings Saudi further in. They've got super useful real estate. If you are Iran and your aim is to build pressure by shutting down another key maritime shipping network, then obviously the Houthis are the easiest way to do that, Barron added. Now, I want to remind people of something for, people that watch this channel, all right? And we've talked about Babylon, Iraq before pretty heavily on this channel, okay? And you guys remember me telling you about the transport road and railway that they're building through that area. I wonder if this is going to be a common theme going forward, and that they're going to use that, and it's going to cause the economy to boom in that Babylon, Iraq area of the world. Just a side thought, just throwing that out there. All right. It says if the Houthis entered the fight, it would be the first time Iran teamed up with its militia allies. Hezbollah, an Iran-backed Lebanese Shia militant group political party, jumped in. That's a long term there. Iran-backed Lebanese Shia militant group political party. Wow, say that 3 times fast. Jumped into the war to attack U.S. and Israeli bases on March 2nd. At the same time, the Houthis have floated the idea of joining with its leader, previously warning regarding military escalation and action. Our fingers are on the trigger, ready to respond at any moment should developments warrant it. And in a phone interview with the New York Times, a senior political official for the Houthis named Mohammed al-Bakadi said, said the expansion of the conflict to include other countries, including Yemen, is only a matter of time. So it looks like things are going to get worse. Like, if this becomes a thing and they shut down the Suez Canal, this is dangerous territory for the rest of the world to be in when it comes to, oil and gas and energy and all of this stuff. It all affects all of it. It says here, our hands are on the trigger, al-Bakadi added, echoing the statement of his organization's leader. The official slogan of the Houthis is as follows. They say that death to America, death to Israel, curse on the Jews, victory to their religion. and obviously they pray to their female deity, and Allah is a female deity. The terrorist organization seized control of Yemen's capital over a decade ago while fighting off an Arab coalition led by Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. More recently, the Houthis launched drones and missiles during the war in Gaza, leading to a severe maritime crisis as commercial ships were targeted. Because of their attack, carriers were forced to take a longer route around South Africa's Cape of Good Hope. The Houthis also took aim at Israel when they jumped into that conflict. In early 2025, President Donald launched a military campaign against the Houthi rebels in Yemen after they targeted U.S. ships and regional shipping. The campaign, known as Operation Rough Rider, saw U.S. pilots and sailors get hit by a blitz of drones and missiles. It ended after nearly 2 months with a ceasefire. Although the U.S. and the terrorist group stopped their conflict, the Houthis continued to attack Israel and ships in the Red Sea. Those attacks stopped after the Trump administration brokered a ceasefire deal last fall, ending a 2-year war between Israel and Hamas, the militant group that controls part of the Gaza Strip. The news of the Red Sea being the next oil route right there to be affected comes as Iran has taken control of the narrow Strait of Hormuz, which in turn has caused the cost of crude oil to surge to over. Well, they're talking about gas. They're talking about gas. To the cost of crude oil to surge to over $3.90 a gallon in the U.S. And I think it's like up to like $110 a barrel on its high end. It's surged to even as high as 120. They've said. Saudi Arabia has pipelines in the Red Sea that route crude oil across the peninsula to its port in Yanbu. The path to exit takes ships past hundreds of miles of coastline that is controlled by the Houthis before getting to another checkpoint at Bab al Mandeb, which links the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden. Trump issued a furious statement on Saturday evening demanding that Iran open the Strait of Hormuz, or he will obliterate, or the U.S. will obliterate its power infrastructure, the Bushehr nuclear power plant. Nuclear power plant. So he's talking about hitting their energy, and then they're going to hit our energy. And I'm going to show you what, because Iran has responded. I'm going to show you Iran's response. It says here, it is Iran's most prominent and largest nuclear power facility located along the Persian Gulf. In a dramatic post on Truth Social, Trump demanded action in 48 hours on the sorry, I'm congested this morning. In 48 hours on the strategically vital waterway. Trump faces increasing pressure to secure the strait as Iran's threats have effectively shut down the shipping lane, sending oil prices soaring. If Iran doesn't fully, this is what he's saying. This is Trump's quote here. If Iran doesn't fully open without threat the Strait of Hormuz within 48 hours from this exact point in time, which we're coming up on that real soon. This was a couple of days ago when he said this, a day and a half ago or whatever. The United States of America will hit and obliterate their various power plants. So more than one, but starting with the biggest one first. So, Trump is really flexing there. The president's message marks one of his most direct threats yet, explicitly naming civilian infrastructure as a target, warning how the country would be plunged into darkness. The post comes just a day after Trump had talked about winding down the war and suggests that a military escalation could be imminent if Tehran does not comply. So here's the thing: I thought we were winning the war already. That's what I'm kind of like. Well, I thought he said that we've already defeated them, but now there's more threats. I think I tend to lean towards the idea that once again, America has taken their enemies for granted and believed that, they're just a bunch of goat farmers there in Iran. Like, these people have been given the funds by the U.S., mind you, problem, reaction, solution, right? U.S. has always been on both sides of these kind of wars. Obama gave them a big pile of money, and then all of a sudden they have all this stuff. working with China, working with Russia, and getting a lot of their stuff even now. Russia and China are helping them out. So I mean, it's a situation that's not getting any better. It's actually it's continuing to get worse. If the Suez Canal shuts down, I think they were saying something about 15% of the world's oil supply. So little by little by little, it's all being taken away. The place where they produce the gas for Great Britain and all that stuff just got hit the other day, and they're saying that was it was around 30% of the world's gas that's produced there, and they're saying it's going to take a few years to bounce back from the attack that took place. And then you got 20% of the oil that goes through the Strait of Hormuz, and then 10 to 15% will say that goes through the Suez Canal. I mean, this doesn't look good. And then the pipeline that pushes it northward. So I mean, take it as you will. But anyways, hold on. I'm going to the next screen here. All right. So Iran responded to Trump's threats, and they said, and I quote, "In the event of the slightest attack on the electrical infrastructure of the Islamic Republic of Iran, the entire region will be plunged into darkness." And they released this photo here. I don't know if it's going to pop up. There we go. They released this photo here of like this area that's going to be affected, and these are all nuclear power plants that aren't in Iran that are highlighted. But also, the Ras Laffan in North Qatar, and it's gas power. So they'll say they'll go after more infrastructure to cause the world more harm if Trump does this thing. So here's the thing. They've shown they have capabilities to strike back. They've been holding back. They wanted to look like they were weak, but that's really not the case because they have China and Russia backing them, and because Iran's giving China and Russia oil, and it has been, So if this warfare takes place, I mean, the world is going to be in an energy crisis. It's already happening, and I've already shown you in multiple countries they're already rationing everything. They're already rationing everything. And even in America, give me a moment here, there's a fertilizer shortage like nobody's ever seen before. Excuse the language here. Nobody's telling you how blanked the farmers are in America right now. The agricultural secretary just confirmed it publicly. 1 in 4 American farmers has no fertilizer secured for spring planting. Myself, actually being a gardener, last year I put a little bit of money into pellet fertilizer because I just had this feeling that something was brewing. And I bought a couple of bags. They were like $20 each, just because in case it was hard to come across composted manure or something like that. If you have a garden, you need to start composting everything you can, even down to eggshells. Rinse them off, and dry them out and like powderize them. It's easier for them to break down. They break down quicker, and that's calcium for your compost pile. And try to put something under your compost pile, like a tarp or something like that, to catch nutrients, because otherwise it can just seep down into the ground. All right. And so we got to start composting. And even if your neighbors don't garden, ask them for their compost and make a compost heap. And you got to flip that 2 or 3 times a year, and try to get a hold of someone that that has like chicken poo or rabbit poo or something like that, and try to till that into that compost pile. And that will make for good fertilizer for your gardens, ahead of time, or even just making it and selling it, because it's going to be so valuable to be able to grow just even a personal garden for anybody that's in your neighborhood. But they're saying 1 in 4 American farmers has no fertilizer secured for spring planting. No fertilizer means no crops, which means no food. Farm bankruptcies are up 46% in 2025. 160,000 farms closed since 2017. So there's a huge amount. There's going to be a food shortage, is what they're saying. And then the way they're fluctuating the weather, I don't know if you've noticed this. I've noticed it, but it's warm, and then it starts to trigger spring, and then it gets cold and it freezes, and then it gets warm again and they trigger spring again. It's almost like they're trying to kill off the plants to make them to where they don't produce any fruit. This is highly going to affect the fruit tree harvest in a huge way, you know. And gardening I think is really important right now. I'm actually this year I'm going to hold back on gardening a little bit so I have more time to bring you the news, because when I garden, end times talk suffers a little bit. I'm not as live as long, and I'm not live as often. It's usually once every 2 days or 3 days when I'm gardening, because my garden takes a lot of my time. And so this year I've decided I'm going to grow some super hots in containers. I've already got those started, and I'm about to start my strawberries. I'm going to finish my strawberry row in my garden, and then I am going to plant some herbs, especially oregano, because oregano oil is like a powerful, I'm going to say this backwards here, biotic anti. Okay. And it's like, it's been known to kill, bacteria. And so I want to start growing more oregano so I can make oregano oil, things like that. I got a chocolate mint plant that I want to plant. So I want to get some stuff established perennial wise in my garden this year. And then I have like a little bit of a landscape that I've been working on in my front yard, and I need to. It's kind of gotten out of control because I haven't had time, and so I'm going to try to get that under control while composting and spending time composting this year. And I'm going to tell my neighbors, like, hey, if you got this, separate it, and we're just, and I'll give people fertilizer back. Like, I'll be like, here's this, but it takes a lot of compost to be able to make fertilizer. And plant matter, all your grass clippings, all that stuff, breaks down into fertilizer. With my lawnmower, I have one of like one with a bag, and I take all that grass and I dump it on my compost pile. But I think this year is the year where you really need to kick into high gear with compost, and try to get it to where you have a good amount for next year. I think next year is going to be when it truly matters. Hold on one second. I gotta send a text out real quick. Anyways, so yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be spending time doing that, and then that way I have more time for end times talk, because I think right now at this point in time it's crucial to be doing this. I really feel it's important that I be live more often, because things are happening every single day. Things are speeding up. There's a quickening that's taking place, and I want to make sure that my friends, my brothers, my sisters in Christ, and just even people that are coming here for information are at least have a heads up. That's what I'm hoping for. And so, anyways, they're saying less than half of all farmers will even turn a profit this year. They're not struggling; they're being wiped out, and the media is busy covering everything else. So they're saying that the picture here, let me pull it up here. It's going to take a moment. So the picture here, if it's glowing, there's a high closure intensity. So you see the area where they're really trying to make an impact. Like gardening is pretty good in Washington because of northern Idaho and stuff, and Montana because of the volcanic activity up there and whatnot. And there's other places where they can garden really well. But this is a breadwinner right here. Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan, Missouri, Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, and even a little bit into Kansas, like in Oklahoma too, Texas as well. But like it's showing where even there's the moderate is red. So even in these areas, like all that stuff where it's not like desert or whatever, you know what I mean? It's they're going after it. They're going after the farmlands of America, and this is the biggest hit right here. in places where there's fertilizer shortages and farm closures. So I mean, this tells you how bad things are in America. They are setting us up, and they tell us you will eat the bugs. They say you're going to own nothing, you're going to have nothing, and you're going to like it. Let's put this into context for a moment. Let's just break this down. Own nothing, have nothing, and liking it. Okay, so they're going to drive oil up so high that people can't afford to go to work, so they lose their jobs and they lose their homes and they lose everything. And then you're going to become solely dependent on the government, because the government wants so much control that they can tell you to put a microchip in your right hand or your forehead. All right. And that you can't do anything without that microchip. Okay. And so, look at it this way. They're doing this in order to bring about the beast system and to bring about starvation and all that stuff. This is what communist systems do to their public during times of where they're taking over and taking control. You can look at Stalin, and you can look at Mao and even Hitler. They all starved their people. All the dictators of the Illuminati starved their people. And so and people will become more desperate when starvation begins, to the point where, I mean, I see videos in other countries where kids are frying up bugs, where they're going through trash to find cockroaches to fry up in some oil inside a little tiny pan to eat a crunchy cockroach or something like that for dinner. Like, this is happening all over the world while Americans fed themselves big and full. Other countries are starving, and now America is being plunged into this. And they kind of started with, being a vegetarian or a vegan or whatever, and slowly introducing the idea of like even bugs and whatnot. They had Nicole Kidman, munching on the crap, trying to sell it to everybody. They got Hollywood bringing it up, and they got their ingredients that they renamed that is actually bug protein and all this stuff that they're putting in everything, and so it's becoming a normal. And they're saying that you ain't gonna have that much meat and all that stuff. Well, they were culling the herds with the bird flu stuff. The cows have it, the chickens have it. America's cursed too, Captain Truth. America, all the countries are cursed right now because they're all turning against God. Bunch of godless commies is what they is. And so, they're trying to. I mean, I saw a video where a dude bought 3 steaks and it was $75. And so there, yeah, exactly, Stephen. Billy Gates is buying up all the farmland, and so is China. Absolutely. This is about them taking control and creating a system that everybody has to live by, or you're pushed out. And yeah, that's another thing that me and my homeboy here, like, this dude's one of my best friends in the world, man. Cap Dragon. I won't say his real name. I don't know if he wants me to, but man, this dude, man, he took me and my family in when we were homeless. And I mean, this dude has one of the biggest hearts of any individual I've ever met. And he's the type of friend that, he's talk and he's walk. He got all sorts of friends out there that are all talk and no walk. This dude right here, he's walk, man. But we've talked about this often, how, they introduced wolves into the different places. Like, we'll just say, like, national forests and things like that. They introduce wolves, and then it goes after the different herd populations like moose and deer and elk and all this stuff. And wolves, and I'll tell you, Cap Dragon's one of the most foremost authorities on hunting of anybody I've ever met. This dude is the real deal mountain man. All right, I'm just putting it out there. Like, Cap Dragon is the real deal mountain man. Okay, and I've never known anybody to be as knowledgeable as he is about animals and just wildlife and all that stuff. The dude is in tune, and I'll tell you right now, he says all the time, wolves are solely there to kill. He says they rarely eat their kill. He's like, they're just straight up murderers. And the DNR and the Bureau of Land Management and all that stuff, they know this. They know this. And they've introduced wolves to disseminate wild herd populations. He's saying reducing our wild game meat. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. because they don't want people to be able to go out and hunt to provide food for their families in what's coming. And so I think it's a serious situation that we're in, and they're trying to bring about famine. They're trying to bring about all this stuff. And again, they are using an oil crisis to create that. Then they say you will eat the bugs. And so with the crisis that we're seeing, it depends on if you want to die or not, if you'll eat the bugs or not. Because they're telling you what they're going to do. They're going to force it. They're going to bottleneck it. They've done this every time. They were able to lock the world down. Yeah, there were resistors, but they got plenty of detention camps I've even shown that they're building, and they're saying it's for the immigrants, but they're getting ready for people in civil unrest. You know what I'm saying? Let me show you something here. And I want to remind people of something that I brought up in the past that I haven't brought up in a while, and it fits to a T what's going on right now. You got to give me a moment. I'm trying to load it here. But it's this letter that was sent out, and listen to me. Listen to me before you say, oh, that's AI, or oh, this is Photoshop. I have talked to Postal employees that I know personally. I have a friend that's not only a postal worker, but his wife is a postmaster. And they both have seen this letter and said this is a legitimate letter that was sent out on January 5th this year, talking about essential workers and, during large-scale emergencies, epidemics, hurricanes, and civil unrest. So they're planning for something that's going to be so big in America that postal workers have to carry this letter around. And then when I showed this before, I had someone, I won't say the state they're from a major city in another state, we'll just say in the South. And this person's husband got a hold of me, or this person got a hold of me and said, my husband was shown this letter, this very exact letter, and said that eventually you guys are going to be having to carry this around. And then there was people that tried to disprove it and say, well, Doug A. Tolino didn't work there at the time. Yeah, he does, and he still does. I checked on it myself. You have so many people that will go out there and push disinformation, but they are preparing for something big. And this right here on January 5th was right around the time when Donald Trump enacted those executive orders about an energy emergency, getting it in place. They've known from the very beginning. Trump has known from the very beginning when he entered office, he knew what he was going to do. And I've even shown you videos, right? And I'm going to show it to you here right now because I think it's important we bring it up, where even J.D. Vance, who is the vice president of the United States, is talking about they're building a new world order. Listen.
What's happening culturally in Europe, what's their crackdowns on free speech. And they just look less and less like we do.
Yeah.
And there's a real question about whether there's a massive shift happening now in terms of world alliances long term.
Well, there's definitely, I think, a new world order. I think the president has sought to it. There's a new world order in trade. There's a new world order.
He said, I think the president has sought to it, is what he just said. He says, I think there's a new world order. The president has sought to it. And he says, there's a new world order in trade. Look at what's happening. Look at what's brewing. Okay.
Order in globalization and the way.
There's a new world order in globalization is what he says next. And that's the 10 kingdoms I've been showing you that they're working on. I've shown you how they're working on it.
The way that we invest in our economy versus, foreign supply chains.
So they're trying to destroy foreign supply chains like the oil. Does it make sense? Does it make sense? Exactly what they said they're doing, they're doing. They literally have admitted it. And they're sending out letters to postal workers at the beginning of the year. I mean, only 3 months ago, this letter was sent out. I mean, I'll read it. I'll try to get through it here. During large scale, and this is the background here, during large scale emergencies like epidemics, hurricanes, or civil unrest maybe from, an energy emergency, and rationing. Okay, let's get through this here. States and localities may issue curfew orders or other directives restricting travel. Oh, like you mean there's not enough oil to go around, so we're going to restrict your travel? Because it says, or other directives restricting travel and other commercial and personal activities. That would be an energy lockdown. That would be an energy lockdown right there. Many of these orders will explicitly exempt providers of essential services, but some do not. Even if a state or local action does not contain such an exemption, the Postal Service's operations are governed by federal law. Therefore, we continue to fill our public service mission by accepting and delivering mail and packages in accordance with federal law. Although postal employees are essential workers that may be exempt from state and local directives, any decision by the Postal Service to continue operations during an emergency, and like an energy emergency, must ensure operations can be conducted in a manner that protects the safety of our employees and the public. The Postal Service will continue working closely with federal, state, and local authorities to ensure that we are safely carrying out our mission during emergencies. Now listen to this. This is part 2. Employees and contractors should carry the essential services letter with them as they perform duties for the Postal Service and travel to and from work. Now here we go. Because state and local government restrictions do not apply to prevent Postal Service employees from reporting to and performing their work, all employees and contractors must be provided with a copy of the essential services letter attached to this memorandum. All right, and this is from this year in January in 2026. This is not edited. Every postal worker that I know 2 postal workers. I know a male person, and I know a person that he's with that's a postmaster of another branch. And I'm telling you right now, they both said that this is genuine. I was told this was genuine. And I don't care what anybody else tells you. I trust my sources over the internet. My sources ain't going to lie to me. All right, it says right here, in an effort to assist employees who may be stopped and questioned by local law enforcement and their activities as a result of a state or local legal directive restricting commercial or personal activities. An oil shortage would do that. Restrict commercial or personal activities. All right. And because it's not saying lockdown. There's no terminology like that. Let me explain something in a moment here. The Postal Service is providing employees with this letter explaining the essential nature of Postal Service employees and contractors. This letter, in addition to the employees or contractors' Postal Identification ID badge, which I've even been shown these badges, they exist, all right, should resolve any questions raised by state or local law enforcement officials. It is critical that all employees and contractors carry their postal ID badge with them at all times. If encouraged or stopped by state or local law enforcement officials enforcing travel restrictions, the postal employer or contractor should identify themselves as a Postal Service employee, show the official their postal issued ID badge, and provide a copy of this letter with this information to the official. The state or local official should allow employees and contractors to continue their travel or work. However, if the employees and contractors run into any issues, they should contact their supervisor or manager. Now, the person that I know that's in postal work, all right, he told me that he received a memo that came out, and it went out to all postal workers about like how to fight through civil unrest. About how to fight through civil unrest and how to go about it and how to get back to the post office safely. And they sent out a whole memo on that just recently. And I'm telling you right now, in this kind of a scenario, all right, in this kind of a lockdown, they won't tell you can't leave. They're not going to say you can't leave, you can't go anywhere. But it's going to be too expensive to leave. And that's how the lockdown is more effective this time. And they give you the illusion of freedom, but they take your freedoms away in other means. It's a repackaging. They're repackaging it and reselling it to us. The same thing they did before, they're just doing it a different way. And I've been saying that this is coming. I've been warning people that this was coming. And you know, I had a person jump down my throat for saying, I told you so. I told you so. Get mad. I don't care. I warned people months ago that this was coming. Months. It's just I said it's not about the way that they're going to do it. It's about the end game and that it's going to get done and it's going to lead us to Agenda 2030. And that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. And again, they're going after, the fertilizer now, and it's becoming a real issue. All of this is being affected. America is going into some really hard times, and I'm showing you the proof. I'm showing you evidence that this is happening on a large scale, and that this year things are going to get rough. I'm trying to warn people. They're going to come out with rationing and mandatory conservation and priority allocation. They're going to limit on how much gasoline, diesel you can buy per car, probably 10 to 15 gallons a week, and you got to make that last. Like the odd, even license plate days, it depends on like the last number of your license plate, or fuel cards. Again, like I've said before, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka have already deployed the military to guard depots and stations to stop hoarding and riots that are happening. This is how bad it is right now. This is how bad the world has become because of this. Thailand, Pakistan, and others are even shortening work weeks to 4 days. And like I said, the mandatory conservation, like government's ordering, people got to work from home where possible. I told you that someone from the VA contacted me. They contacted me and said that there is work at home orders going around and that everybody has to get all their ducks in a row for it to work. I literally was emailed and I was told that I could speak about it publicly as long as I didn't say where or who. But this person works at a VA and they're telling them that they have to work from home. And another person that is this person's superior told them that they've been working there 10 years and never seen nothing like this, even during the COVID pandemic. But now all of a sudden, they want people to work from home where possible. They're saying that they're going to cut the highway speed limits back to 55 miles per hour inside the U.S. They're going to ban non-essential air travel. They're already working on it, like what you're seeing, and then putting ICE into a position of what, and I forget the name of it, the transit authority for the airport. Sorry, but they're putting ICE in replace of them. The TSA. Sorry, the TSA. They're putting ICE in replace of the TSA now. And they're bottlenecking everything. This is a police state takeover, and Americans are completely oblivious to what's happening right now. Absolutely oblivious. And half of them are cheering on their own tyranny and demise. It blows my mind away that there's people that cannot see what's happening right now. We are in the beginnings of World War III, complete and utter tyranny coming to America. I'll think of all you guys talk about the beast system all the time out there. I mean, what about the data centers and all the different tracking and stuff that we've been going through with our cell phones and all this stuff? We're primed and ready for it. We have the dress rehearsal of the pandemic lockdown, getting us ready for this moment. And then them going after fertilizer and the food and the beef and the chicken, even the pork. All right. And you can see every single stage of implementation getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And people are acting like everything's still normal or going to go back to normal. Like I said, they're gonna ban non-essential air travel. And they're going to push for people to carpool because, only one person gets 10 to 15 gallons a week. So everybody's got to, I got to walk over to Marge's house to get a ride to the grocery store, or everybody's going to have to take family trips to the grocery store and stuff like that. I mean, you're going to have to stock up when you go to the grocery store, if it's even there to stock up on. Or you're going to have to get in line for the redistribution centers that are already happening all over the place. Yeah, and again, the direct energy weapons, like my buddy Cap Dragon's saying, it's literally going to be used to smoke people out of their hiding spots. That's what all these wildfires have been. Things are getting worse right now, RJ Hater. Jesus is coming back anytime, but I'm telling you right now, things are getting tough right now, bud. You know, we're in a world of hurt right now. Even right now, even in this moment, Jesus can come back right now, and things are still tough right now. Yeah, and I agree with that, John Paul. They cannot see the forest because of the trees. It's right in front of them. It's right in front of people, and they don't want to listen to what's going on. And like I said, they want you to carpool. They want it to be. They're literally bottlenecking everything into 15-minute cities already. This is how they're going to pull it off. Mark my words, it all makes sense. It's all fitting together. It's like a puzzle piece, or it's like a puzzle that you're working on, and you got the outer edge all figured out, and you got all the colors organized, and we're just sitting here, wham, 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 one puzzle piece after the next, putting it all together on this channel, trying to keep people ahead of the game just a little bit. I don't know how long we got, but you got your warning, that's for sure. Today's your warning. Yesterday was your warning. The day before that was your warning. I've been going live about this for about almost 2 weeks now, talking about these energy emergency lockdowns that they got planned. And when things get rowdy, they're going to declare martial law. That's what they want. And then they can really go after people. You know, it's insane to me. And we need Jesus, man. We need Jesus so badly. And there's so many people that their relationship with Jesus is struggling. And we have got to get right with Jesus. We need him in our corner. We can't deal with what's ahead of us without him. It's impossible. Absolutely impossible. The IEA is already calling publicly for all these different things, like, carpooling and all that stuff. It's already beginning to happen. And you're going to see it. You're going to see these little trickles in the news of what I've been telling you popping up. Oh, here's another one. And I hate that idea of like Alex Jones is like, we need an Alex Jones tip jar for every time I'm right. I don't like that idea. But it's like, it's like I've had so many people attack me for warning. It's why do people attack me for trying to warn people? I don't get it. I don't get it. People are angry because I'm correct. They're angry because it's happening the way I said it's going to happen, and people are literally getting mad at me for being right because they wanted it their way or the highway. They weren't reading the Word of God. They were listening to people give their opinions about the Word of God instead of reading the Word of God itself. And I know what the Word says. I look into it all the time. And the Bible tells us it's going to get rough before the emergence of the Antichrist. It's not going to get better. And everybody walks around like it's impossible for America to have hands put on it. They're putting their hands. They're putting their hands on us, man. You know what? I agree with that, Corey Alphin, 110%. People don't want to accept that their whole reality has been a lie. That's so true. I agree 100%, RJ Hater. The more you are on point, the more the spiritual attacks from the enemy will come upon you. And I've been dealing with it behind the scenes. Absolutely. Politics will fix nothing. Not a thing. Politics were invented by Satan. Politics were invented by Satan to distract, destroy, and divide. Distract, destroy, divide. But like I was saying, in this kind of lockdown that's coming, they're not going to tell you can't leave. Unless everybody gets uppity and gets their pitchforks and their torches out and starts burning crap down to the ground. This is going to say, well, you can't afford to leave. And they're going to put rules in place. They're not going to make it mandatory at first. Remember, it's going to be 2 weeks to flatten the curve, right? But they want to make it so expensive that you can't leave. There's going to be priority allocation where like fuel first goes to trucks that are hauling food and medicine and emergency services, even down to farmers and public transit, and exports of refined products that get banned. And China is already doing it. China's already banning the exports of refined products. So they're saying that anything that's made in their country doesn't leave their country. And now Trump could do this, but he's already taken out 400 million barrels of oil out of the stockpile. And he says, we'll pay this back within a year. Well, start paying it back now, man. Start getting the pumps going now. Start drilling now. It matters now more than ever. Trump has been announcing peace talks ever since his first administration. He's made peace deal after peace deal after peace deal. And on this channel, I do not believe Trump's the Antichrist. He's not. He's working for him. Oh, yeah. I do not believe he's the Antichrist, though. I've gone over this many a times. And if people have like an alternative view, that's okay. But it's not. This isn't the place where we're going to be like Trump's the Antichrist. All right. Trump is making a lot of peace deals. All right. He's making a lot of peace deals right now. And I've talked about why he's making those peace deals because of the 10 kingdoms. But that's it. You know what I mean? The Antichrist has not emerged yet. He hasn't shown his face yet. And I can tell you right now, Christians, born again, Bible-believing Christians that are going in the pre-tribulation rapture, the bride of Christ, they aren't going to see the Antichrist. It don't matter who he is. I ain't never going to be like, this dude's the Antichrist. I'll tell you where I think he's coming from and where he's going to go to. And people can argue with me. I don't care. But he's going to come out of Syria, and then he's going to go into Babylon, Iraq for 3.5 years. And then that place is poised to be one of the world's economic hubs right now, with all of these straits being blocked and all that stuff, and all the shipping and all that stuff, because they got coal trains and they got train tracks and roads that run straight through Babylon, Iraq now. They're working on it. And I believe he's going to come out of Syria, going to go into Babylon, Iraq for the first 3.5 years of the Great Tribulation, and then he's going to go into Israel for the last 3.5 years of the Great Tribulation. And then that's it. I don't know who he is, but he's going to be some Arab or someone from the Abrahamic family that comes out of Syria. I can tell you that right now. I've done my due diligence. I've looked into the book of Daniel. When you pay attention to the book of Daniel, the Antichrist comes out of one of the 4 corners of the old Grecian Empire. When Alexander the Great died, he basically divided his kingdom into 4 parts, and he had 4 generals that he gave 1 part to each general. And then it's speaking along the lines of the way that that's quartered out, talking about the northern quarter, which is Syria and Iraq, which is the ancient Babylon territory, because it's Babylon, or it's literally the way it says it in the Bible, mystery, comma, Babylon, not mystery Babylon. It says mystery, comma, Babylon. It's talking about Babylon, Iraq, the original Babylon, that locale. And they're building that up with AI. I've shown you the signage that they tried to hide. I did past videos where I literally showed you the signage and that they tried to hide with different photographs. Laura was there. John Paul was there. I know Cap Dragon was there. There's a whole bunch of people that watch this channel that were there during those lives when I was showing live, and I showed live how they actually covered up the Babylon, Iraq sign, not wanting people to see that they call it Babylon. They're already calling it Babylon. It's got a huge old light up sign. Looks like Las Vegas, man. And it's interesting, too, because if you look at like the analogy of like, even like The Stand, Stephen King's The Stand, and how like, this thing, this virus brings about the Antichrist. And I mean, the beginning stages of it, absolutely. COVID-19 pandemic, virus, whatever. But it brings about the rise of the Antichrist, and he goes into the desert. but they use America as like, that America is Babylon, but he's in the desert. It talks about in Matthew 24 when they say he is in the desert, go not forth. So I could go on and on about the different things and the things that point, like how he's called the Assyrian in the Old Testament multiple times. He's called the Assyrian. All right. The Antichrist will come from the northern quarter of the Grecian Empire. He'll come out of Syria and he'll go into the ancient Mesopotamian Babylonian territory. That's what it's going to be. And they're literally like the way that the new trade routes are working now with the Straits of Hormuz and the Suez Canal, I believe is moments away from getting plugged up. It's going to poise Babylon, Iraq to be a merchandise hub, which it was back in ancient times. I could go through this all, but I'm not going to today. Not today. I believe that it's going to get to the point in America where troops, like out of the National Guard, are going to help distribute fuel, protect pipelines and ports. And I think we're going to see martial law in the streets. They've been, something I noticed, just a little tiny spoon feeding here that I noticed was that you have, like locally here, there was a parade. And every year, the military has never been involved in that parade. Okay, you've had police, fire trucks, all that stuff, EMS that show their vehicles for the kids during the parade, and they toot their horns and all that stuff. But the interesting thing is, these past few years with the parades, they've been having military vehicles driving in it, and that's literally conditioning the public to see military on the streets. We've been seeing more military movement on the streets. And I agree, RJ Hater. I agree with what you're saying. And it's funny, even in recent years, they put the gun on the turret on top of the Humvees and stuff now. So now they're showing you the weaponry. And then they got a guy sitting at the top, holding on to the machine gun or the 50 cal or whatever it is. And it just goes to show that they're introducing the military slightly, little by little by little, into society right now. They're conditioning society to be ready for martial law. I mean, go watch the movie The Siege. What do you think The Siege is about? And here's the thing. With all this happening, there's going to be terror attacks. You still have the sleeper cells in America. Chaos is going to be at maximum. And again, I'll even show it real quick because I think it's important and I need a water break real quick. But listen to this. It's 1 minute and 33 seconds. Pay attention to each of these predictions that the World Economic Forum is putting out there. And you tell me, when you watch this, apply what we're saying about all the oil and the food and fertilizer and all this stuff that's happening. Apply it to what you're about to see right now. And I seen that as well, RJ. That during Mardi Gras they had military in the streets arresting people and things like that. One of the things I want to point out about that video you just watched about how they're saying, "Oh, we're gonna go out and we're gonna play Star Trek out in outer space, man, and we're gonna find alien life, bud." No, that's ridiculous, man. Like if you go into there's this new movie I watched. I forget what it was, but they brought it up. It was just like that movie Elysium with Matt Damon. All of society was poverty stricken, just like in Ready Player One, the Steven Spielberg film. All of society is poverty stricken, right? And everybody's living out of shipping containers and crap. And then their whole reality is video games. Like that's the way they escape the hellhole they're living in. But even in movies like Elysium, where you have Matt Damon, who's trying to get this ability to go to this outer planetary space station thing called Elysium, where all the rich and the elite live, and they got their oxygen chambers and their good health and all this stuff. You know what I mean? Like that, like this, like look at all what the elite are doing. You have Elon Musk in SpaceX. You have Blue Origin with Jeff Bezos. You got that one dude that owns Virgin Records. That's that pedophile owns that other pedophile island. What's his name? Russ or something Branson. I think it's something. I think it's not Russell Branson. It's something else. Richard Branson, maybe, or something like that. Anyways, he's got Virgin Space, or Space Virgin or whatever it's called. You know what I mean? They're all in a space race with each other right now because they're all getting ready to do the things that they've been projecting in the movies where they're going to live in some space station while all the rest of the world goes to crap. I don't know if it's going to happen like that, but I can tell you right now, there's the UN Agenda 21, all right, which was what they wanted the Earth and things to be like in the year 2021. All right. And I remember back during the pandemic, they had exactly everything down, what they said that they were going to do for Agenda 21. It happened in 2021. Now there's Agenda 2030, and that's a step worse, but then they don't talk very much, and it's very hard to find information about, but it does exist, Agenda 2048, which is them out in outer space playing Star Trek and Star Wars with their little lightsabers and their Jabba the Hutts and whatever they got going on out there on their little space station, celestial, apartment complex that they got going on out in outer space, or just in the orbit of the Earth's atmosphere, out of the way and unreachable to the public. That's where they believe they're going. That's what the devil is telling them they're going to do. You're gods in human form, and you're going to blast off into outer space and blah blah blah, and you're going to have your own civilization, and everybody's going to get their own planet and all that stuff. They ain't going nowhere, and their body's going to die just like the rest of them. You know what I mean? Like it's just a bunch of mumbo jumbo. But and yeah, Cap Dragon, he says, I'm pretty sure I got one of those 3D printed steaks. Nasty, made me sick too. Yeah, they're out there. They're out there, and they don't have to tell you that the meat like that is out there, whether it's cloned meat or whether it's Gila. There's a video that I did over on my Rumble channel, and it was all about the Gila cells, and it's Henrietta Lacks is what Gila is, and she had the most aggressive cancer known to mankind. They took this thing out in outer space. This cancer like lives on its own. All right, it literally lives on its own and multiplies and grows and grows and grows. And what they do is they take flavor enhancer and they put it in a big vat with Gila cells, and then they grind it up and they make it look whatever kind of meat they want to feed to you, whether it be burger patties, all those burger patties you buy at the store and stuff that are pre-made and all that stuff, Gila, all those chicken nuggets and all that stuff, Gila. It's all Gila cells. And they grind it up to make it look like this and look like that or look like burger. But that's the reality, is it's Henrietta Lacks. And then they even paid her family off to keep quiet about it. They made them all rich. You know what I'm saying? So like this is a lot of the stuff that's going on. And they'll even use Gila cells to be able to print this 3D meat or whatever. So it's a thing. It's a thing, and it's happening, and it's happening fast. Give me a second here. And with that all being said, on the other side of the coin, with the terrorist cells and all that stuff that I've been talking about that do exist, that aren't going anywhere. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. All right. And we've seen little attacks here and there, some lone wolf. Hold on. I'm using a toothpick here. Some lone wolf attacks that have taken place. All right. Now we have a worldwide alert that's been put out there. All right. And it says worldwide caution. The Department of State advises Americans worldwide, and especially in the Middle East. So they're saying worldwide, even in America. All right. It says to exercise increased caution. And remember, they've been telling us that they're planning something. They told us that Iran was going to send drones into Southern California. We got drones over military bases and all this stuff. Now they're giving us an alert saying worldwide caution. The Department of State advises Americans worldwide, even in America, and especially in the Middle East, to exercise increased caution. Americans abroad should follow the guidance and security alerts issued by the nearest U.S. embassy or consulate. Periodic airspace closures may cause travel disruptions. All right. I wonder what that's about. Maybe it's about the oil too. All right. U.S. diplomatic facilities, including outside the Middle East, have been targeted. Groups supportive of Iran may target other U.S. interests overseas or locations associated with the United States and or Americans throughout the world. This means even in America. All right. They're telling you. And here's the thing. They don't even need real Muslims to get out there and get busy. Remember, problem, reaction, solution. They'll go out there and they'll do a flag false. All right. And they'll make something look like it. And it takes more of our freedoms away. All right. Never let a good crisis go to waste, they say, right? So this is where we're at. They're sending out this alert, for worldwide caution for U.S. citizens. And it's not just for them abroad. It's in the United States as well. And with that being said, hold on a moment. The U.S. has given up a whole bunch of their LPG, which is like the gas or whatever, to India, delivering over 16,000 and a half tons of American gas to India. Probably as like a, oh, sorry, we screwed you over starting this war. Please don't be angry at us. We're going to suffer here in America so you don't there in India because we did this. But it just goes to show, and Trump's trying to rewire things and make the U.S. like this hub, of distribution. It's weird, man. This is happening so fast. And again, like I got to show it here. Give me a moment. Right here, and we've talked about this before. Trump working on Kingdom 1, helping out with Kingdom 6, helping out with Kingdom 7, helping out with Kingdom 5, helping out with Kingdom 2. He's got his hands in all of these. Half the New World Order, right? And now it's India, and India's in Kingdom 9. So now he's like throwing stuff their way. But with that all being said, he already did his work in Venezuela and got Maduro out so they could have control over Venezuela. So Venezuela would integrate with Brazil. And they already annexed, I don't know if it's Guyana or Ghana, but it's one of those. In South America, there was, this annexation that took place where, Venezuela took over its neighboring country. But then now you have Cuba, all right, that is, on the brink of collapse. And they're saying here Cuba has announced that they're preparing for a potential military aggression by the United States.
Our military is always prepared, and in fact it is preparing these days for the possibility of military aggression. We would be naive if, looking at what's happening around the world, we would not do that. But we truly hope that it doesn't occur. We don't see why it would have to occur, and we find no justification whatsoever Why would the government of the United States force its country to take military action against a neighboring country like Cuba?
Well, the thing is that they're doing this power outage thing there, and they're making their citizens suffer, and there's people dying in the hospitals and all that. And so America's going to see that, and they're going to have their end. They're going to have their end. This is going to be the way that they go about it. And then it just plays into Kingdom 6 becoming more and more a part of itself. Cuba is that long yellow island beneath the state of Florida. There in Kingdom 1, that yellow island, the long one, that's Cuba. And so, Trump, again, and I just go over it real quick because I want people to understand that are new to the channel. There's a lot of new people lately. But so you got America, all right? Donald Trump telling Mexico to get their crap together. And then you got the cartel stuff that's happening there. That America was a huge part of the Mexican government arresting El Chapo, all right? And then you got all that upheaval beginning to take place. You got people in Canada that are already signing petitions to become a part of the United States and leave Canada. And then you got Trump talking about buying up Greenland. And you remember, America bought Alaska. So Kingdom 1 right here, it's all right there. It's all right there. It's all figured out. All they have to do is basically enact all that. And then Kingdom 6, they've already worked on Venezuela, which is that have that big portion there that has the number 6 on it. That's a part of Brazil there. But then you have up above that next biggest portion that's at the top of it, that's Venezuela. And Trump's talking about going after Colombia. And remember, they went after terrorists in Ecuador. All right, Ecuador, Colombia, Cuba, all a part of this. It all begins to make sense. And of course, there's another peace deal. Of course, he's got another peace deal because he's helping the Illuminati build the New World Order. And this whole Middle East peace plan that he's got figured out, Iran has to get in line. And that's why they're doing it, because they have to finish building Kingdom 7, I think, in the next 3 years. I think we're that close. Kingdom 2, all they're going to need is basically Poland to leave and start to get into the war with Russia and Ukraine, or just completely merge with Russia and Ukraine when they merge together, because they're going to merge together. That's what this map shows. Ukraine and Russia will merge together into Kingdom 5, and that's why there's upheaval there. China, as it sits, is already complete. Kingdom 8, China's Kingdom 10, by the way, the hot pink one. Kingdom 8, that's already good to go, basically. Tropical Africa. Then you got South Africa, and you're about to see upheaval there because the natives don't like that people from the Netherlands and Australia moved to South Africa when they were enduring persecution of their own kind. And then now the natives there in South Africa want to kill off all of the all the people that are, from these other countries. So they got a civil war that's brewing. And then Asian, which is Kingdom 9, they haven't been conscripting any new nations into their order in 25 years. And last year was the first year where they brought a new nation into it. And then now they're talking about Papua New Guinea becoming a part of it. So that would be another nation joining it. This thing is fastly moving along. And remember, there's 10 kings, 10 horns that represent 10 kings. Yeah, that's funny too. Peace deal, funny way to say non-hostile takeover. Yeah, absolutely. But so there's 10 horns that represent 10 kings. And then it says in the book of Daniel, a little horn, an 11th horn, rises up out of the midst of them. That's wonderful, Kepi K, I think is the way you say it. My dad was big into prophecy, and he would have loved to dissect all of this. He's watching from up in heaven. Yeah, he's up in heaven now. He's up in heaven now. But so the Antichrist is going to arise once this 10 kingdom order gets built, and World War III is going to take us there. You're seeing World War III now, and I've shown you how World War III happens and what it's going to mean for the rest of the world. that is involved with it. Give me a moment here. It's slow to load today. My computer's so slow today. Oh, come on. Let's try this here. All right, right here. And right here, they go through, you have two high-level Illuminati members, Luciferians, Albert Pike being the leader of the southern chapters of Freemasonry in America, gets a hold of Giuseppe Mazzini, who is the successor to Adam Weishaupt, who founded the Illuminati on May 1st in 1776 in Bavaria, Germany. After he died, he gave it to Mazzini of Italy, and then they wrote out their plans for 3 world wars. My friend, Doc Marquis, personally was in the British Museum Library in London before 1977 and saw this document hanging there and confirmed to me that it was real. I know this is real. And if you read it, they follow it to a T. They literally tell you what they're going to do. And I mean, just paraphrasing here, it talks about the Illuminati creating turmoil between the Muslims and the Jews and bringing about a war. That's World War III. And they want the rest of the world to fight against whose side they're on during this Middle East war. And they want the rest of society to clash. And it says that through this clash, people are going to see and understand the absolute origins of atheism and savagery, and that there's going to be the most bloody turmoil. And then they're saying that the citizens across the globe are going to be obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries who are the nihilists and the atheists, the people that believe life has no purpose. If it feels good, do it. They're completely the opposite of morality. They're completely the opposite of sanity. They're the complete opposite of fact and logic, all right, and common sense. Like, and the people who believe that a girl can be a boy and a boy can be a girl. The people who are Antifa. You have the satanic accelerationists. You have all these people, all right, that are out there. All right, then you have the radical Islam. Then you have the cartels and all this stuff, all these career criminals and things like that all over across the board. And then you have the leftist liberal sympathizers, all the godless commies, and this all makes up this batch of nihilists and atheists that they want to provoke a formidable social cataclysm, which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, the origin of savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. So there is a civolutionary war coming for the rest of the world during this time. And out of this chaos, they're going to bring about their Luciferian one world order. That's the goal. And trust me, it's a Luciferian one world order. David Spangler, who worked for the United Nations, said no one will enter the New World Order unless he or she will make a pledge to worship Lucifer. So it's a Luciferian New World Order. All right. No one will enter the New Age, the Age of Aquarius, Age of Aquarius, Aquarius. Yeah, right. You starting to get it now? No one will enter the New Age unless he or she will take a Luciferian initiation. And then you have, J.D. Vance saying this.
Culturally in Europe, what's their
sad.
crackdowns on free speech, and they just look
sad.
less and less like we do.
Yeah.
And there's a real question about whether there's a massive shift happening now in terms of world alliances long term.
Well, it's definitely, I think, a new world order. I think the president has sought to it. There's a new world order.
He says, I think there's definitely a new world order. The president has sought to it, right? So they know, and the new world order is Luciferian. And the Bible says it's going to consist of 10 kings and 10 kingdoms. And out of those 10 kings and 10 kingdoms, the Antichrist arises. World War III will produce the 10 kingdoms. World War III will produce Antichrist. It will happen exactly as this. The Bible predicts it. This is the Word of God. It's all in the Word of God. It's all in the Bible, all in the KJV Bible. And they literally tell you what they're going to do to you. They tell you that it's coming. They tell you that it's Luciferian. And they tell you that they're purposefully building this new world order.
Trade. There's a new world order in globalization and the way that we invest in our economy versus, foreign supply chains.
You see, that's what all the disruption with the foreign supply chains are, with the oil and all this stuff. They're trying to redo the whole entire thing. The whole entire world order. They want it to be a new world order. And I can even show you the original maps that they had when they first started this project. Give me a moment here. Let me try to find it here. Yeah, it's right here. This was the original map. And it says post-war New World map. This is what they had it divided up before. And then the Illuminati honed in on this. This is what it was. This is what it became. And there wasn't 10 kingdoms in this. That's not Bible prophecy, this one. This is the oldest version of it. This is the one they're going by now. And they're going to do it. They're going to do it. And I think that sometime during World War III, which I believe has already begun, Christians, brothers and sisters in Christ, those who are born again, that have their lamps full of oil, the bride of Christ is going to go home. And the whole entire world is going to be plunged in darkness and chaos. That's what it's going to be. This is where we're at. And the whole Cuba thing next, that's just another piece of the puzzle. That's just another piece of the puzzle. An important video I want to play for you guys features, the late, great Chuck Norris. All right. And I do believe he was a Christian. I believe he gave his life to Jesus Christ. There's all the evidence of that in his life later on. He might have not been a Christian here or there, but we all have fallen from grace. We've all fallen and come short of the glory of God. But God is so merciful and so graceful that a free gift, he sent his son to die on the cross that we can be saved, and that by his blood we are redeemed and set free from our sin and have our entrance into heaven if we just believe in our heart and confess with our mouth. And I think Chuck Norris did that. And in light of that, I want you just to hear this quick little video. Hold on.
Well, it seems another year has flown by. Life can bring its hardships, but know there's always light at the end of the tunnel. God is good all the time, and all the time, God is good. Stay safe and all the best. Your friend, Chuck Norris.
So I'm telling you, those are some pretty wise words. Even in the darkest of nights, there is still the light at the end of the tunnel. We have a promise that God has given us, that he is going to see us through, that there's not one thing that the enemy can do to stop what God has ordained to happen. And God has, time and time again, spoken to you to be about his business and to be an active Christian. A way that I get active outside of End Times Talk is I work towards exposing, pedophile satanic death cults and their operations in different areas in Michigan, because Michigan is the place I can affect. And so each and every person can have a ministry and even side ministry that they do for the Lord and have a calling. Each and every single person here has a calling of God on their life. God has not forgotten you. You are not going through this alone, whatever is next. But the word of God says Jesus is patient and long-suffering for the fruit of the earth, that none should perish. And so if he's not wanting any to perish, that means he's waiting on Christians to get out there and win some souls. I'm sorry, my thoughts and prayers are with you, Silent Walk, and Jesus is with you. He's going to walk with you through it. He's going to walk with us through this. He's not left us high and dry. He's been here the whole entire time, and if God will bring you to it, he's going to bring you through it. It's so important to believe that it's so important to lean on the promises of God, because God isn't a liar. He's never been a liar, nor will he ever be a liar. And I know sometimes it's hard to see how a miracle is possible in a situation such as this, but I'm telling you, there's plenty of miracles ahead. There's plenty of miracles in store. And the greatest miracle that's probably going to happen, in our lifetime is the pre-tribulation rapture. It's going to abruptly just take place. And all the signs that are all around us right now, everything I've been showing you today, just goes to prove that it's close. Jesus says, when these things begin to happen, let me say that again, begin to happen, look up, for your redemption draweth nigh. That's what the Word of God says. And so what's happening right now, it's just a short space, a short moment in time before Jesus comes to get us. May God bless you all. May he keep you. And please don't forget to go out and change this world in which you live.